It's the day before the Champions League returns, and so therefore I'll be at London Colney a little bit later on this morning to see who is going to be potentially in action, who is in contention, who has returned from injury, but also we've got the difficult discussion of some ticket price rises to talk about. This is the Arsenal News Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of what is the Arsenal News Show, joining you every single morning at 8 a.m. I don't know why I struggled with that, but thank you so much for tuning in. It is very much appreciated. Please do, if you haven't done so already, drop a like on the video. Thank you so much, as always, for supporting the channel and helping us to our 1K everyday like challenge. And with it being Tuesday, of course, meaning it is day before the game against Porto in the Champions League, but it is, of course, Champions League day. There is Champions League action this morning or this evening. It depends where you are in the world. It could be this morning for some of you. PSV taking across Borussia Dortmund. Of course, PSV are the team that we faced in our group stage. And Inter Milan against Atletico Madrid as well. Plenty of action still to come across that competition, and we'll be excited to see who goes through and who's placed themselves best ahead of the second legs in a couple of weeks' time. But Arsenal will be travelling a little bit later on today to Porto. But first, they have one more training session, which I am going to be very excited to witness this morning. Let's go into the chat box, though. Olu, Stephen, Kaiser Darbas, Ismail, Paul, Jalali, Dabani, Matt G, Damien, Dave, Amira, Carlton, Sweating, Merlot, Black Shine, The Process, Dominic, Red Star, Shivs, Temi, Clincy, Adagoke, Glenn, Maximius, Morgie, Blackshine, and James. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you so much for the support that you give the channel. It is massively appreciated, and everybody else as well. And those listening on catch up or on audio platforms as well, if you could hop over to YouTube and show your support with a like on the video, that would also be incredibly appreciated. Right, I feel like I've used the word appreciate about 75 million times already this morning, so enough appreciation. And more news. Let's go straight into today's stories, shall we? First of all, we start with the Premier League roundup. Everton completing the latest match week with their Monday night game against Crystal Palace. They drew 1-1 thanks to a late goal in the 84th minute from Amadou Onana, a very important goal, in fact, because it means that Everton will move slightly further away and out of the relegation zone. That point took them above Luton Town. They're both on 20 points. Nottingham Forest currently on 24, but there has been suggestions and some whispers going around that points deduction could be coming for Forest. Whether it's also coming again for Everton, we'll have to wait and see. Luton Town, Burnley and Sheffield United will be keeping their fingers crossed that certainly is the case. But above that, you've got Crystal Palace on 25 points. They are certainly not out of this trouble right now. Luton Town will play in midweek. In fact, they'll play tomorrow as well, as Liverpool take on Luton ahead of the League Cup final at the weekend. Meanwhile, of course, we'll have more action from Manchester City, who will play Brentford as well in midweek also. That's also on, that's on Tuesday. So that's actually today. So we'll see Man City against Brentford tonight. I guess we'll have to wait and see if Brentford can do Arsenal any favours. We wait and see. Moving forward, though, and it is the last chance today before we see any potential returnees to the squad before they fly out to Portugal later on this afternoon. I'll be, after this show, checking the traffic, that's for sure, and then driving up to London Colney for the open training session at the Sober Realty Training Centre. We call it London Colney, but it's got a brand new name, of course, as we know. It's my first time we'll be seeing the new designs, the new sponsorships, if indeed that's already up or not. I'm not sure. I'll feed back whether or not it is indeed the new sponsorship in front of the training complex. But I'll get an opportunity to see who is and who is not in training. There's a few players that could be in contention. Fabio Vieira, Takehiro Tomiyasu, Zinchenko, Gabriel Jesus. All of these players could indeed be back, and we'll see if indeed they are. And if they're present in training, they might be given an opportunity to fly out to Portugal. However, the other main two are Partey and Timber. We don't expect to see Timber. That would be a huge surprise. But Thomas Partey is, however, one of the other ones that we could see, because of course Mikel Arteta told us that he has been out on the grass for a little while now and was last week. So if he's involved in training, that would be a massive, massive boost indeed. So I will feed you back. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at Tom Cantor Media. I'll be providing updates from Colney. And of course, we'll get all the news out on football.london as well. But the big story of yesterday, which will probably be taking up the majority of this morning's discussion, is the rise in season ticket prices. An announcement on the Arsenal website yesterday, if you scroll down the page to the third section, finally gives you the information that everyone is looking for. I'll read you what their statement is in full, just so that you've got full clarity on it, and if you've not seen it already. It reads, our ambition is to continue competing at the highest level and investing in our teams in an environment where costs continue to rise. We are also continuing to make investments to improve the matchday experience for our supporters at the Emirates Stadium. Consistent with the changes we made in 23-24, general admission season ticket and match-by-match ticket prices will increase by 6% in the lower tier and 4% in the upper tier. As a result of the additional fixture and ticket price increase, season ticket holders in the upper tier will pay an additional £113 on average for their season ticket, with those in the lower tier paying an average £103 more than this season. As general admission season ticket holders are owed the difference between a Category A and Category B game following all three 23-24 UEFA Champions League group stage fixtures being categorised as Bs, the actual increased outlay for renewing season ticket holders will be an additional £73.68 on the upper tier and £72.58 on the lower tier. These increases are based on average upper and lower season tickets. Club level tickets are also going up by 6% for those with seats in the halfway line or midfield price categories, and those seated in the behind the goal or corner seat will increase by 8%. Seasonal dining prices will increase by 8%. So that's that. There's also some really important news about season ticket utilization as well, which I need to go through with you because it is important. To be eligible for the renewal of season tickets for the 24-25 season, season ticket holders must utilize their ticket, or their seat rather, for at least 17 of the games, including their season ticket this season. Next season, this will increase to 20 games as part of our ongoing efforts to ensure seats are used and to help drive the best possible atmosphere on match days. If season ticket holders are unable to attend any fixture included in their season ticket, they can resell their seat on the ticket exchange to other Arsenal members or transfer to a friend or family member via ticket transfer. There is no cost to the season ticket holder for these services, and they count towards their seat utilization target, subject to the recipient of a transfer ticket attending the game. This also gives other supporters the chance to get behind the team in the stadium on match days. With demand for tickets at unprecedented levels, we are also continuing our work and our investment to clamp down on ticket touting. Since the start of the season, we have identified and banned more than 25,000 suspicious accounts thanks to the introduction of the member ticket ballot and changes made to the ticket exchange. Our work to tackle this problem will continue. I hope that my microphone was working throughout that. That'd be awful if it was in the chipmunk noise, wouldn't it, after I read that incredibly long statement? So, what does this mean? How should we feel? How do I feel? How should you feel? Now, I always have to kind of set aside the context of this. From my perspective, I am media. I sit in the press box. I don't have to pay these ticket prices. I am very privileged to be in a position where I'm not. So I always want to preface anything I say with that context, because I don't want to come across like some privileged arsehole that just, is getting access to these, doesn't have to pay for tickets at the moment, whilst I have this job, of course. And so I can understand why it can come across my own opinion like, well, you don't have to pay it, so why do you have this opinion? And I think that is absolutely fair for someone to have that price. My view on it, and I wrote a piece yesterday, which you can read on the football.london website, about I tried to look at it from a balanced perspective. And I think that there are two sides to this, and I have empathies for both sides. I'd say that I have more empathy for the supporter side of things, and I think that there has been some fair points raised by the Arsenal Supporters Trust, which perhaps will lead to more questions regarding why the increase is as much as it is, if that makes sense. But what I do think is that there are also reasons as to why we are seeing an increase in those ticket prices as well. I'll try and read you, if I can find it, the statement that the AST also put out on their website, because it's probably best to provide you as much context as I can from the other side of things. So this is the response from the AST that came out yesterday. They said, "We are disappointed Arsenal rejected our call for a freeze in ticket prices, given the club will benefit from playing more home matches next season. These proposals mean a supporter buying a season ticket for 24-25 will pay approximately 10% more than this season. Arsenal are guaranteed to play at least one more game in Europe next season as the group stages are expanded. It could well be 2 more games with an extra knockout game introduced. We hoped the extra revenue these games generate would mean Arsenal could lessen the annual uplift. This size of increases are necessary at a time when the club revenues from broadcast and commercial revenues will increase by more than 150 million over 2 seasons to exceed a predicted £500 million during this current season. The club could have mitigated this increase by introducing option of a 19-game Premier League season ticket, as happens at the vast majority of clubs. This not only provides a more affordable purchase, but more importantly, sees more tickets available for red, silver, and overseas members. We welcome the decision in the increase to the sport given to the junior gunner category. This follows the discounts introduced previously for younger adults and students. Our young fans are the club's future, and this should help more young people attend the Emirates. We are concerned at the decision to reduce senior concessions, including ending all season tickets and greatly reducing matchday discounts. The club should be more generous in support it gives to our senior fans. We will monitor closely the impact and feedback from our members. We also welcome the commitment made at the Arsenal Advisory Board that further resources will go into the fight against touting, and we will continue to press for more to be done here together, with more explanation around what has been achieved to date." So the overriding feeling is not a good one. There are some positives in there about the touting and, of course, the discounts being made and continue with the junior gunners. But obviously the frustration surrounding the rise in ticket prices and the frustration specifically surrounding the, what's the question? The senior tickets, the senior citizen tickets basically used to get a discount when you reach a certain age. That's not happening anymore. Fans that have the current discount will continue having that discount, to my understanding, but new senior citizen ticket holders for next season, if they were looking to get that discount, will not get it now, is my understanding of that one. I hope that makes sense. So, as you know, and if you live in the UK, you'll know this from the perspective of someone who lives here. That's just the reality of it. Everything is going up. The economy in the UK is awful. There's a number of reasons for that. I'm not going to get political, but there's a lot of reasons as to why the economy is a terrible, terrible state right now. And that means the cost of everything is going up from... I'm not even going to use examples. I mean, from my perspective, my mortgage rates are going to be going up through the roof. I'm looking at trying to move house, and it's proving incredibly difficult to do because of the state of what everything is right now. Energy bills are going up. Everything's going up. And that means the operating costs of the club is also going up for a match day. So the argument is on that side of things that they have to increase prices in line with the additional operating costs that are also going up. That's the example. If you take the money that they have suggested it is going up by, which after refunds is about £72 to £73, it works out about £3 more per game. Just over £3 more per game is the increase on tickets for next season. So the question I suppose I've got for you that is that, are you willing to pay around just over £3 per game more to go to watch Arsenal? And I think the obvious answer is ultimately, yes. The answer is yes. Fans are going to pay just over £3 more per ticket per game. That is the reality. Fans are going to do that, and if fans that are going aren't going to do that, there is going to be thousands upon thousands upon thousands of fans that will do that. So the club know. Let's be honest. The club know that people are going to pay. People are going to get more money, and people are going to pay the extra money to get the ticket. My worry is that there was an increase last season. There is an increase this season. And if there's an increase next season, the rightful question is, when does it stop? When does it stop? Because I can understand and appreciate that Arsenal's competitivity has increased. Last season, we competed for the title. This season, we're competing for the title again. And we're certainly hopeful that we will achieve things like winning trophies and competing continuously into the foreseeable future at the top level. But we can't go much higher. We can't go much higher whatsoever other than winning the league and winning the Champions League. And when that happens, do we still keep improving, increasing ticket prices? Is that going to keep happening? That really is the worry for me, is where does it stop? The inevitability of it exists as it is. It's constantly always like the threat these things are going to go. Again, flipping to the other side, we are more competitive now. I remember back in the days where we had the you spend, we spend protests, and I wrote in that piece. In fact, what I might do for the benefit of this argument is I might read you the ending few lines from my piece that I wrote yesterday, because I think it's better that I put it into my own words and I can read it to you. If you can read the entire article on the football.london website. So, hoping that it reads through. Fine, here we go. So the conclusive feeling, this is at the end of the article, at least from my perspective, is one of inevitability. The combination of factors of the economy to the tribal demand for tickets made me feel this way was always going to happen. The work done to make tickets accessible to more people in a fairer way, although not perfect, is an improvement. And the work done to tackle touts and bot accounts is again an improvement. Is this somewhat defeatist? Should I instead be standing, placard held high? And what would it even read? You spend, we spend. Well, they have spent an incredible amount, in fact, and the performances on the pitch are feeling the benefit of it. I and thousands of others have enjoyed some of the most joyous moments supporting and watching Arsenal these past couple of years. It comes at a price that people are willing to pay. But the question persists, should they be expected to? And should they be at such an increasing rate that they are? And that is where I'm left with. It's an open-ended question for me. I don't have an ending conclusion, if you like. I end on a question. And that question is, as it says in the article, it comes at the price that people are willing to pay, but the question persists, should they be expected to, and should they at such an increasing rate that they are? That's the question. Should people be expected to keep paying more for these tickets? And should it be at the rate that it currently is going up by? And I honestly don't know the answer to that question myself, because there is a lot of work being done to improve the squad. A lot of money is being spent to improve the team. And we need to work within the confines of profit and sustainability regulations, and that comes at a price. But what I have a question about is what the AST raises, and they raise it in a very, very fair way, is the point where they raise, if it is indeed accurate, which, why wouldn't it be? Let me find the exact wording of it. The size of increase is unnecessary at a time when the club revenues from broadcast and commercial revenues will increase by more than 150 million over 2 seasons to exceed a predicted £500 million during this current season. That, when I read it, just makes me think, well, if it's increasing revenues by, let's say, a few million quid, if we're getting that offset by what we're earning in broadcast, was there a need to upgrade in the ticket prices? That's the question I have. I don't think it's an unfair one, especially if what the AST raises is accurate. So, yeah, that's where we're kind of left. I know that was a really long section on tickets, and I know that it doesn't affect like the wider listenership of this channel, because obviously there's only a percentage of people that have season tickets, and it's probably the vast minority of people that listen to the channel have season tickets. But it is an important point to look at as overall, and perhaps get people's feelings as well, which we will do in part 2. Now, speaking of tickets, you can get your hands on a ticket for a signed and framed Arsene Wenger inspired 49 unbeaten shirts. There is currently, at the time of this live broadcast, just over 160 tickets left, and there is just over a week to get hold of them. It is a UK-only competition that you enter into with 499 tickets on offer at the start. And not only that, but whenever you enter the competition, you enter yourself in with a chance of winning a number of instant win prizes, like a signed Thierry Henry shirt, a signed Dennis Bergkamp shirt, a signed Tony Adams shirt, a signed Nigel Winterburn shirt, and a signed Freddie Ljungberg shirt, with some other top draw prizes, which you can read by going to the link in the description down below as well. Right, let's go to part 2 and your questions, which I imagine will be partly dominated by tickets, right after this. Okay, we'll jump into the chat box then and get your thoughts and feelings about a number of different things, because I imagine that there are some very strong opinions about this, because it's unsurprisingly always that way around these type of things, because understandably people are frustrated, and that certainly does make plenty of sense. Right. Going into Rob says, how do our season ticket and match day ticket prices compare to other London and top 6 prices? If they're at the same level and increasing at the same rate, no complaints. If they're going up above those, then obviously we need to raise questions. And the honest answer is, off the top of my head, Rob, I don't know. What I do know is that I think the Tottenham Hotspur tickets, for instance, are more expensive than our own, and that makes sense because it's a new stadium and it's a bigger capacity and it's a more modern stadium with greater infrastructure. So naturally, it would be more expensive. But I don't have those. I don't have those to hand, and it wasn't provided either by any of the other commentators on the ticket situation either. Whether or not that gives you an indication about maybe it is in line with it, I don't know, because we don't know whether or not it is. But that's certainly a very, very good question, Rob, and maybe one that I will do some research into. Chris says, I completely get it, but I think with the state of the world right now, if Arsenal turned around and said this year we will support the fans and not increase the prices. And again, Chris, this is a completely fair point. The state of the world is what it is. Everything's going up. And your football team is your thing that, back in the day, your local team was something was about the local community, and they did things to support it. And to be fair to Arsenal, they do loads of stuff to support local communities. Loads of things. The community outreach programs, they're helping local businesses, campaigns that they've done. They do a lot of things to help local communities and local people out. But I get where you're coming from, Chris. And where you're in a situation where everything is going up, you'd hope maybe your football team would be one that isn't. But it's also, I think, at that point, fair to say if everything's going up, then they are inclined in some ways to also be in that, because their costs are going to be going up at the same kind of rate. But there is question marks about whether or not how much they put it up by is indeed a fair reflection of how much it should have gone up by. Alex says, Tom, Arsenal as a club already charged the highest ticket prices in Europe. Is that true, Alex? I'm pretty sure that's an old wives' tale now, is it not? Because I'm pretty sure Tottenham Hotspur charge more than Arsenal do. This is like one of those classic misconceptions that goes around based upon what you all used to hear. So if we have a quick look, most expensive, shall we have a look online and see if there's any data on it? Expensive football tickets prices. Let's see if we can get some information on this. So January 2024, most expensive Premier League season tickets. So let's go to, this is weird. In GBP. Well, that's not right. Oh, this is like the most expensive season ticket you can buy. Apparently Fulham is the highest at 3,000. That seems rather ridiculous. Spurs have the next highest at 2,000. Arsenal have the third highest, 1,896. Let's see if we can find any more recent up-to-date ones. 23-24 clubs most expensive and cheapest tickets. Again, I want more so the... to be fair, Arsenal have the third cheapest 23-24 tickets at £28, according to Nell Now, which is a website I've never heard of before, most obviously. And they have the third most expensive tickets at £103 per match as well. So interesting, but I guess we'd need the data. But Alex, I'm pretty sure that this is a bit of a misconception now. We are not the most expensive team and haven't been. I know Spurs is definitely higher than us, and apparently with Fulham building their new ground, they are too. You also have to remember that Arsenal as a club are in London, which naturally are going to be more expensive than most other places around the country. And with the most modern stadium, bar Spurs in the city, again, that probably makes sense. Ajmal says, do you think City would win the league given the teams Liverpool have left to play? Ajmal, I think it's going to come down to a three-way race. I really do. I think Liverpool obviously have to play City, but City have also got to play both Liverpool and Arsenal. They lose both those games, and suddenly it's very, very different. Let's go to John Rock says, will matchday staff get a raise? I don't know. I doubt it, because that's one of the big things we're talking about in the world at the moment. I don't know that for a fact, by the way, but the way the world is right now, wages are not increasing at the rate of inflation. And so they may get a raise. Will it be in line with how things are going up? That's the question. That's why we've got so many people striking in the UK at the moment, because wages are not going up with the same rate as what inflation is. And so people are still making a loss, even though their wages may be going up. Mark says, might Sambi Lokonga's return from his Luton Town loan reduce our urgency to go into the midfield market? Or do we still need to splash out for a Fofana, a Luiz, or a Zubamendi? I think that there's potential for both. Obviously, Jorginho, El Neni, and Partey are all question marks over their futures. So bringing back Lokonga and adding a Zubamendi might indeed be a way of kind of covering that, if that makes sense. Amira says, speaking of money, Tim Stillman tweeted days ago that the club makes more money at the Armoury for the WSL games than the Premier League than other Premier League clubs. Do you think that revenue goes to just the women's team and games or as the whole club? It's a really good question, Amira. Does the revenue that is made purely by the games in the Army on the women's side of things go specifically to the women's side of the thing, or does all of the revenue that the club mates get, what's the word looking for, respectively, kind of, divvied out to the different departments based upon, I don't know, the amount of revenue that each sector makes, I suppose. But it's a good question, Amira. I don't know the answer. But it's great that we do make more money on that. And it shows you the passion that this fan base has on the whole, besides a few idiots, for, the women's game. Maximir says, how are German clubs like Bayern, Dortmund, and Spanish clubs like Real Madrid managing to keep their ticket prices so much lesser, even though they have more world-class players and have a good trophy return? Again, Maximus, I think there's obviously something to be said about the Premier League side of things. There's something to be said about being England as well, the state of our economy, I suppose. But my international politic knowledge of those other nations are less so. Plus, I think a lot of those clubs in Germany are fan-run as well. There's a lot more emphasis on fan kind of board situations. But I think there was a big thing at Bayern Munich recently where fans were very frustrated with the ownership and how things were being run at Bayern, and potentially the treatment of supporters. So I don't think it's as cut and dry as you think. I do think with this topic, you see questions, and we saw that question earlier saying about Arsenal had the highest ticket prices, blah, 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 which is not true. People have a lot of questions and a lot of opinions without doing research first. I'm not saying that's you, by the way, Maximus, but what I do think is that there's a lot of questions that get thrown around without doing the research kind of first, which is a bit of a problem. It's fine to say that you don't know an answer to a question, by the way. It's a very underrated answer to a question is the words "I don't know." Doesn't get used enough by people. Vala says, speaking of important economic stuff, do you have your eggs before each morning show or after? I'm enjoying my porridge right now. It depends, Vala. I have them before or after. It depends on how much time I have before a show. PJ says, hi, Tom. I'm planning on traveling to London to watch a game. I'm from South Africa. How would I go about it based on the ballot system? It's a great question, PJ. And the answer is you have to get very lucky because you have to wait until the ballot. You have to wait until, obviously, the ballot's open for a certain game. And so for that game, you have to wait for the ballot to open. You have to enter the ballot. You have to wait for your response in the ballot. And if you are successful or not, then you can book your trip. And if you aren't successful in the ballot and you're still traveling to London, you aren't going to a game. And that is the issue with the ballot system right now. That's the problem that we have with the ballot system, is that sadly, it makes traveling from abroad very difficult, which is ironic considering that a lot of people, especially more the gatekeepers, if you like, are frustrated about the ballot because they say more tourist fans are now at the grounds. And the reality of the situation is actually it's made it much harder for tourist fans to get tickets because they can't plan their trips in line with getting a ticket for a game. So there's an irony there, isn't there? But yeah, sorry, PJ, I can't be more help than that. AB says, is any TIFO planned by the AA for the game against Newcastle the Emirates? I don't know. I'm sure they will release a statement on their Twitter feed if indeed it is, or if there's any updates on that. Tizer says this is going to be the case for all clubs with profit and sustainability, as owners cannot just pump money into their clubs or get inflated sponsorship deals from connected companies, allegedly. Hence, more in the women's game as well. Maybe I think obviously the profit and sustainability, the restrictions, everything to do with that is certainly one of the factors that has caused an increase in ticket prices. Arsenal want to be a sustainably run club, and that does involve revenue. That does involve improving your revenue, and tickets are one way of doing that. And people are willing to pay those prices, and naturally things are going up in price everywhere. So it is just part and parcel in some ways of what it is. I know that my view is not going to be the most popular of everybody's, by the way. I accept that. I can't help the way my brain works. I can't help that I try and think about things in a balanced fashion and look at both sides of it. Like the tribal fan in me wants to be, fist in the air, placard in my hand, protesting, saying this is wrong. Fans should not be treated this way. We shouldn't have to pay as much of an increase. But whilst there are reasons that I can see, and whilst the club that I support is competing better than ever before, compared to when I remember the you spend, we spend, I remember ticket prices going up during periods where we weren't doing very well, that we weren't improving, and we were very stagnant and arguably even regressing. I absolutely empathize with that view. And we weren't spending that much money compared to our rivals. Arsenal are spending loads of money. We're making losses in the transfer market year after year after year because of the spending that's there as well. Colin says, but you would lose your cushy gig. I think it's cushy, the word you're looking for, Colin. And obviously, I work in the media and I get access to things. The media is there to be critical, by the way, Colin. It is there to be critical. So, and I have been. And if you read the article I wrote, it is very critical. It's balanced, but it's critical. So, if you want me to go and protest, it's a bit different. And plus, I don't really see a need to protest this, as I've explained. But it's nothing to do with that. It is all to do with just the way my head works around this and just being, if I think something's wrong, I'll say it. If I think something needs to be criticized, I'll say it. It's as simple as that. And I'll have anyone on the show to come and challenge me on those points. But as you know, whenever we do have anyone on or open things up, they don't show up. But Colin, I'm more than happy to have you on the show right now. Colin, if you want to drop me a message onto Instagram or Twitter, I'll happily send you the StreamYard link and you can come on and question me if you like. And no problem, no questions asked. You're in. But do drop me a line. Mark says Pearl Jam are playing at Tottenham Stadium. Is this like a band that I'm unaware of? And they have to go carts track underneath, not going, but their revenue will increase. I don't know what Pearl Jam is. It's a rock band. Okay, so this is why I didn't know who it is. But thank you for that, Mark. Appreciate it. Colin says, I'm at work. Classic. Maybe get back to work rather than watching the show, mate. Tizer says, I love what the club and our supporters are doing for our women's team. Arsenal now want more women's games at home. If they did 10 women's games at home, how much could they get in terms of income? It depends. But obviously, when you've got one ground, you're playing worth 2 teams worth. You know, there creates something about the recovery of the pitches. I'm getting so much stick now for not knowing who Pearl Jam. It's not my music. I'm sorry. I can only apologize. I can only apologize. I have to apologize. I'm sorry, okay? Stop having a go at me for not knowing who Pearl Jam are. I'm drum and bass to my core. I am drum and bass. That is who I am. I'm sorry. Everyone's like, it's an age thing. That's fine. Look, I'm 30 this year. I don't know who Pearl Jam are. It's not my band. It's not my music. Get over it. Okay. People don't have to like the same things as you. Martin's like, it's not mine either, but I still know who they are. I'm just uncultured, Martin. I'm just really uncultured. I'm sorry. Tom's like, I've unsubscribed. Oh no, it's all going downhill. Oh dear. There you go. Rob says Tom wasn't even alive when Pearl Jam were kicking off. Exactly. Have some empathy for me, please. I was born in 94. This isn't fair. Chris says Pearl Jam needs to do a drum and bass song for Tom, and then I'll know who they are. PJ says it shows your age. This is just bullying at this point. This is just bullying. SH says, you're not a chef, but you know your potato. Hey, I tell you what, I'm pretty darn good at cooking, I'll have you know. Z says, for us foreigners, I think price tickets doesn't really matter that much. We pay anything and we're happy to just get a ticket. And I absolutely see, Z, where you're coming from with that. I absolutely see where you're coming from. And from fans that buy a one-off ticket, £3 increase per game, that's on season tickets, by the way. But if there is a general increase, which sees about a £3 to £5 increase, which I think that's even exceeding what it actually is, I really do look at situations like that and think, well, you know, I just think that it's very difficult for a fan that only buys 1 or 2 or 3 tickets a season because that's all they're able to do, and that's not their fault. You know, that's just the way they are. They're not going to have the same level of frustration as a fan that obviously pays the extra 100 plus or 70 plus or whatever it's going to be amount of money. It's a sensitive topic, and I see why it gets people's backs up. Doesn't mean you have to insult me, a little bit like our previous commenter did, but you know, I understand why there's emotion attached to it. Nanjay says, how does Arsenal spend when they cry? They cry every year. What are you talking about? What do you mean? How does Arsenal spend when they cry every year? Who's crying? Nanja, you're gonna have to explain that, mate. Darren says, wasn't alive when Mozart was doing his thing, but I know who he is. Are we saying that Pearl Jam are as big as Mozart? This is where this show's gone now. We're now discussing this 2 days before our live event. I'm going to get pelters. I'm just going to get pelters. Tizer says, Pearl Jam Alive, a drum and bass remix. One for you to check out on YouTube after. Thanks, Tizer. I will I will even take a photo of your comment just so I can catch up on that and educate myself. Okay, I promise I will listen to that remix. Ian says, "What about Queen? Queen? I've heard of Queen. Oh, I don't know about that. No. Is it? Is it? We've had a Queen. She sadly passed away. You've had a Queen. Queen? I don't know. I don't know who that is. Uh, I am joking, for the record, for those that start taking this too seriously. Paul says, "Did I miss you flagging to fans that Kevin Campbell, sadly not very well at the moment, has been poorly for some weeks? He's one of our own." So I thought about Paul. I have known for a little while. I didn't know that it was public. It clearly is. If you're saying that, I was busy yesterday evening. I know Sophie did a show. She may have mentioned it on her show. But yes, I am aware of Kevin's situation. I didn't know that it was public knowledge, which is why I haven't, because you have to respect people's privacies, but clearly it's now public knowledge. And of course, our thoughts are with Kevin right now. I have actually spoken with him. I was texting him the other day, and he's been struggling, and our thoughts are with him. It's not nice, especially for Sophie, because as you well know, if you listen to the Hybrid Squad, you will know the challenges that Sophie has faced in recent months, and I could not want to be more supportive of Sophie right now. She needs your love and support. And whilst I know that we here have one of the best communities, and you do that and you show that every day by the support you give to the channel, just by tuning in at this time in the morning or catching up or helping us with our 1K like challenge, but all of those things help hugely here. But I know that what that means is that you guys are going to go over to Sophie's channel. You're going to go and find her on social media. You're going to go and find Lee. And ultimately, you're going to find Kevin on Twitter as well. And you're going to send them all the love and support that you can. Some things are more important. Now, we're sitting here and we moan about tickets. We're moaning about a £3 rise at times, which is important to talk about for sure. And that's why we've spent so much time on it today. But sometimes there are more important things in the world going on, and they need to be at the center of attention and get much more attention. And this is certainly one of those things. So yeah, Kev's sadly not very well at the moment. We are sending him all the love in the world, and we send that to everybody in and around his family and his circle and his friends, and with Sophie and with Lee as well, who obviously are very close with Kev. So yeah, we are sending our thoughts to him. I think we should probably end the show there, actually. So yeah, Vala says, "What's the channel name?" Go over to the Highbury Squads, send plenty of love, and leave your nice, kind comments on the channel. If Sophie does a show today, show her plenty of love and support, so that I sent you. And yeah, but I think that's probably the best place to end this show. I think a nice way to conclude this might be that yes, tickets are frustrating, and I empathize hugely with fans that are frustrated with the rises, especially when there's really fair and solid points made by the AST about revenue increases and whether that's in line with what's also gone up. But at the end of the day, there are more important things in this world still that should be given our undivided attention, and what we've just spoken about there is certainly one of those. So yeah, if you want to get as emotional as some people have got in this show, and even led to some people crossing a little bit of a line earlier on, please do take heed and know that there are just so many more things you can apply that energy towards than this. Thank you for listening. Please do drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new, and help us on our way to our 1K like every day challenge. I'll be back this evening for a preview show looking ahead to tomorrow's game against FC Porto, and I will be leaving here very shortly to go up to the Arsenal training ground to watch the first part of the open training session and be reporting on who and who is not available and training ahead of the big game tomorrow. So keep an eye on my Twitter feed at Tom Canton Media. You'll be able to get the updates on who and who isn't there from about 11, half 11, 12, that sort of time. So just keep an eye on my feed at that point. I'll give updates as and when I get them. Have a fantastic day. Stay safe, stay well, stay respectful, and as always, up the Arsenal.